Good morning.
Hey, good morning. It's Derek here. I'm in Calgary, and I'm being joined right now with Brian Fowler, CEO of Northstar Gold Corp, from his COVID apartment bunker in Vancouver. And we also today have Mike Sutton on the call, who's joining us from somewhere in and around Kirkland Lake there. And
Corp.
where from, Mike?
Corp.
Corp. Okay, you got me. Anyway, we have a really interesting presentation. I've met most of you before, and thank you very much for joining us on the call. I'm hoping some more people will join us here in the next little bit, but we have a nice turnout now. Brian's just going to give us a quick sort of rundown, and then Mike is going to focus on the potential exploration, past, current, and future, and why we're so excited about this property, this company, and this trade. So, with that, I'm going to give it away to Brian Fowler, and I hope everybody is seeing the screen Northstar Gold presentation right now. Mike, you should have the screen now.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Welcome, everyone. Happy that you could take the time to join us to get the latest on Northstar Gold Corp, and we're very really pleased to have Mike Sutton on board for today's call, so he can walk everyone through Miller Gold property and our recent Diamond Joe results. And yeah, so moving forward, yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, obligatory cautionary statement. Just give you a bit of a corporate update, and we'll get to Mike shortly. Northstar's been prior to going public here earlier this year by way of an IPO. The company operated as on a private basis, focused primarily on gold exploration in the Abitibi region of northeastern Ontario, and more particularly the Kirkland Lake region. The company has 300% owned projects. Our flagship project is the Miller Gold property. It's situated 18 kilometers southeast of Kirkland Lake. And we also have a gold property, the Bryce property, which is situated about 50 kilometers to the south of Kirkland Lake. And our third property is the Milestone Copper Nickel Cobalt property, situated in the Temagami Lake area. Kirkland Lake, prolific camp, 24 million ounces of gold from 7 mines. It's a great place to explore for gold. Thanks, Mike. Part of our going public initiative this year was to augment the board and management group, and you can see the company's board and management group is comprised of a number of accomplished professionals with a great deal of experience with both majors and juniors on a global basis in mining, exploration, financing, investor banking, investor markets, and finance. Go ahead, Mike. Thanks. In addition to going public, the company restructured our capital structure. The company did a 6-for-1 rollback prior to $3 million 30-cent IPO. After all of that, our current share structure sits at 38.8 million shares outstanding, 47.3 million on a fully diluted basis. The pie chart on the right indicates the distribution of those shares. You can see that management, directors, and insiders own almost control almost half the shares in the company. We're very tightly held. We have a very good share structure. We currently have just under $2 million in the bank, and we have no debt. And our market cap, last I looked, was around $19 million. Okay, Mike. Since going public, we've had a fairly steady news flow if you've been following the company. As mentioned, the IPO closed and the listing on January 2nd. And then in February, we announced we commenced our diamond drill program on the Miller Gold property. And in March, we announced a $1 million flow-through financing, and we were very fortunate to close it quickly within 11 days at the end of March. And then, unfortunately, in the middle of April, we had to announce the cessation of a temporary suspension of drilling at the Miller property owing to COVID-19 complications and concerns. And then June 3rd, the company announced our drill results. We did manage to drill 2,200 meters in 13 holes prior to shutting down drilling at the Miller property. And results, we had some results that confirmed some very high grade numbers off the historic number 1 vein as well, and then also discovered a couple new zones that Mike will be talking about shortly. And more recently, actually just a couple days ago, we announced our geophysics program has commenced on the Miller property. So we're going great guns, and yeah, so we're moving forward. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, so basically, the Miller property, that's their flagship, and it's sitting to the south of Kirkland Lake. And one of the things that makes it interesting, more so than, other properties, is that it's got a lot in common with Kirkland Lake, like a lot more than any other property anywhere else. It's got the same age rocks, same type of rocks, same everything. But the one thing is, with the gold, you get tellurides, these gold tellurides. And the tellurides it's pretty rare around the world to have them with the gold. But, Kirkland Lake has it through all their mines. The 7 big mines made up 24 million ounces there. And the one type of telluride is calaverite. That's the new south zone at the Kirkland Lake Gold's mining almost totally now. It's almost 100% of their ore comes from there. Well, that's loaded with this calaverite, the telluride. Well, that's what Miller has. Miller has this same tellurides with the gold. And the only other place in the neighborhood is out here in town Swastika, just west of Kirkland Lake. And you can see these black lines, big, thick black lines. Well, those are the structures. Those are the conduits that the gold's flowed along. And so it's not too much of a surprise, I guess, that, Miller's got the same mineralization, because the main structure, this Catherine Fault here, comes up and joins up with the Larder Lake Break. And, that's, the main structure in Kirkland Lake. So all of these 3 areas have got the same mineralization out of those conduits. Now, I just threw this in, but it shows you that around the world, there's some famous gold camps, like in Australia, Kalgoorlie. It's like a 1 million ounce producer every year. Cripple Creek is another world famous. So it's Kirkland Lake, Cripple Creek, Kalgoorlie. There's only a handful around the world that have this. And here's the mines in Kirkland Lake. Is Golden Gate's the one in Swastika, just west of Kirkland Lake. And here's your Miller Independence mine. So this is, you can look this up on the internet. So it is important. Just to show you that the fluids are really, really similar, if not totally the same as what's in Kirkland Lake. Now, this is a close-up map of our property, and basically the other thing that we compare ourselves to, the other property, and if I go back here, you'll see it. I don't know, there might be a delay when I'm doing this, but the Sigma Lamac in Quebec, we compare ourselves to that, and there's a reason. I'll show you that in a second here. But basically, you've got these intrusives in orange here, and they've punched up, and they're loaded with veins. They're most of the ore that Oban before Northstar, the last big drill program was it was Oban, which is a Cisco, eh? So they did a big drill program. You can see where they drilled. they drilled, and this is 2015, they drilled this intrusive, this intrusive, and this intrusive. What they were looking for is another Canadian Malartic. So now what happened was, of course, they got this really good property in Quebec, Windfall Lake, and they just dropped all their properties elsewhere, including this one. Now this was a great property. I mean, it's had, besides Oban, over the years, there was Tech Corporation and Goldfields and Queenston. So a lot of big companies were attracted to this property. Now, the other thing you can get off this map here is you can see the faults. So there's your main one, Catherine Fault. But there's a whole bunch of parallel ones. And normally, when you're looking for gold, the two things you want are intrusives and structure. Well, we got them both, right? And on top of all that, there is a historical resource, 270,000 ounces at 11.5 grams gold. So again, the grade is king, and this is high grade. And now this is historical. It's, we're going to have to, you can't go by this for now, but it's something to, start with, sort of thing, And then there's also an historical resource up here on, on the planet, 3 to 5 million ounces, sort of thing, a million ton, 100,000, 500,000 ounces, sort of thing. But again, that's an old resource and it's historical in nature, and you can't, we don't rely on it. But I mean, it's it's an indication, right? Now, and then I was telling you about these intrusions, the orange ones, but there are other ones, these purple guys, different rock type. Now, if I go to, well, first I'll show you a couple slides. This is one of those intrusions, the Allied cyanide. This is what Cisco was drilling. Now, besides the mineralization in that, we have mineralization outside of these intrusions. And this orange, this gold-colored vein here, the number 1 vein zone, you can see it here in the pictures. It's a fairly flat-lying vein, pretty massive quartz. This is a surface trench that was undertaken by Northstar, and a good grade. Now, I got another picture here just showing it, it's called the Golden Sidewalk here, because this vein, it's one of the few places around Kirkland Lake you can just drive right up to with your truck, get out of your truck, walk 100 feet, and you can pick up visible gold right on surface. So, I mean, you can see what the area looks like. It's just bush country. It's really good access. You can't ask for anything better. You got, roads, everything there. Now, we're comparing ourselves to in the Integra company's property. Now, they got taken over by Eldorado a few years ago for, I think it was 550 million. They had the exact same thing that we've got. They've got a bunch of these intrusions sticking up. They're in different colors because there's different types of intrusions. There's diorite and tonalite and whatever, but similar to what we've got. And they've got a major structure coming through. So if I turn that sideways in the same orientation as our property, you can see the intrusions we've got that are full of gold. We haven't tested this purple guy yet. Well, they got the same thing. They got a major structure. We've got a major structure. They've got a multiple plugs. We've got multiple plugs. They're all about the same size as ones we've got. And their property, the Lamac and Sigma mines, which is part of this property, produce like 10 million ounces of gold. So it gives you the idea. And by the way, Integra got taken out, like I say, for the upside. I mean, Eldorado didn't buy them out just because they've got one or two little veins. They've got multiple veins. So we're showing as a comparison these guys because, like I say, they've got the same size plugs. These are these intrusions coming up. They're like sausages. We've got the same thing. This is us here. It's a section view. Surface is up on the top. Just one of these on their property, 3.7 million ounces came out of it. So what they started out with, Integra, was a bunch of flat veins. That's what we've got. Then they drilled and they found these subvertical veins, steeper veins. Well, we just put out a press release, and this was an old slide here, 14 grams over 3 meters. Well, that's now what we think is a vertical structure. So we think we're basically where they were, but 5 years ago, sort of thing. Now this is sort of a better view of what they had. They had these gray veins, flat. That was Integra. Soon as they found these steeper veins, these are the colored ones here. That's when they got taken out by Eldorado, because it's easier and cheaper to mine steeper veins than it is to mine flat veins. There's nothing wrong with flat veins; you can mine them as well. But and here's an example of flat veins. This is Valentine Lake, Marathon Gold. Again, in an intrusion, stacked veins. They're flat, lying, but this is 4 million ounces, so nothing to sneeze at. So, you know, these intrusions are important. And, you know, we've got similar sort of stacking. So this is a section view of what we've got. You can see one vein. The colors here are the assays. So the purple are the real high grades, and reds are the second highest. And you can see we've got one vein coming through here. You got a bunch of other flat veins here. So I've just kind of stippled them in on this slide here. And you got above this number one vein. This is the number one vein that you saw pictures of up here, where there's you could see it going down into the ground up here. It's a massive vein. Well, when it hits the intrusion, which is down here, it opens up into a much wider vein system. And we just put out some really nice numbers from in this area. But, you know, we found veining all the way along this in the volcanic rocks surrounding the intrusions. And, you know, we've got veins below this number one vein, and we got veins above it. So above it, here's a slide just showing some wireframes of some of these veins above it in the intrusions. They're stacked very similar to what Integra had before Eldorado bought them out. And it's also very similar to what Valentine Lake, you know, Marathon Gold has. I think what I'll do here, just right about, I'm gonna go to a 3D just to give you guys a better view of what I'm talking about here. So this is a plan view. You're looking down on our mineralization. Here's the one intrusion off here, up here to the north. Here's another one here, and here's the third one here. This is a gabbro. It's a different rock type, but it's another intrusion that, you know, needs to be drilled. This is the number one vein. It's a flat vein. So if you rotate this sideways, then you can see how this flat vein moves into the intrusion. The intrusion's this here, and there's another one here going north-south. I'm going to turn off some of these other ones just so it's easier to see. Let's set here. Porphyry, turn that one off. And then I'll turn off some of these other ones. Basically just leave you with the one here. That's the main one. And I'll turn off the gabbro. So there you go. This is what Oban was interested in. They drilled a lot of holes into it. Well, not a lot, but a few, you know, they drilled some, and they were all vertical holes what they were drilling. And you can see most of the holes on the property are vertical. Here's the number one vein. It's flat coming down through here. And you can see when you zoom in here, the assays, I'll turn off the vein itself. You can see the assays in purple here, how they line up. So it comes up to surface up here. And, you know, there's nice assays. There's, well, we just got one of our drill holes this year. You know, we've got, 18 grams over 3.9 meters. So, you know, there's some real high grades. And, you know, like I say, that's what the Kirkland Lake camp is known for. I'll go back to the slideshow here. I don't know if there's a delay when I go and flip from one thing to another, but here's this number one vein, and this is a grade times thickness. So what it's showing you is where all the high grades are. So grade times thickness here's up to 330 here gram meters. So you can see there's these plunges to the zones. It comes up to surface up here and up here. But but you've got plunges coming along here. So if you drill along these plunges, virtually every hole is going to hit. These are the deeper holes where the intrusion is. The purple is where the intrusion is here. So, like for instance, this is outside the intrusion to the west. We just got a new hit out here that's outside the intrusion to the east. So, you know, it's shaping up quite nicely. And, you know, the scale here, this is about 800 meters. Well, you can see it down here. It's 300 meters, but we've identified about 800 meters along strike for that number 1 vein. Now, this slide here is showing some of the grades that we've got. So this is the hole that we just put out in a press release from our drilling this year, 18 grams over 3.9 meters on that number 1 vein. But, you know, there's prior high-grade intersections all along it, 86 over half a meter, 11.6 over 4 meters. The other intrusions, well, this vein comes down into this one. We call it the Allied. The Allied cyanite, and you can see the grades in there, 14 grams over 3 meters, 40 over 1. There's some real wide intersections. This is what the Cisco was after. This is why they were thinking Canadian Malartic, that kind of thing. A gram over 97 meters, you know. So 104 meters intersection, a gram. So this, you know, it's whether you're looking at narrow vein mining or bulk tonnage, open pit mining, this property has both, right? So now, also, and by the way, this is one of our holes into this Allied cyanate. This is where this number 1 vein blossoms out into a wider zone, 11.6 meters. So, you know, and within that, there's 11.8 grams per ton and a 19 gram per ton with visible gold. So again, you got the wide stuff or you got the high grade, narrower stuff. And then we've got, you know, other intrusions that we haven't drilled yet this year, but they've got good numbers from prior drilling. Planet cyanite, you got 3.3 grams over almost 11.5 meters. And then 0.6 grams, again, one of these wide intersections, 148 meters. You know? It's good widths, you know, you'd think an open pit, obviously. Now, we did, the red ones are our new drill results from this year. So we've actually got one of those flat veins above the number 1 vein. We've got, you know, some good numbers on that too, 12 grams over 0.9 meters, 13 over 1.5. So these are, you know, if you're just going to mine these discretely instead of one big open pit, you could mine them wet from underground, you know, with grades like that. So this is a plan view showing some of these new holes that we've drilled. So the number 1 vein is this in sort of a gold color here, and the intrusions well, it's actually this. We've with the new drilling, this is a reinterpretation, is this sort of brown color here. So we've got some nice intersections on the number 1 vein itself. And here's that 18 grams over 3.9 meters. And like I say, this continues. You see this hatched areas. Those are the highest grade parts of it. So there's a nice plunge coming through this way. So we want to follow up on that. And it's sort of following this zone here. Now, what was nice from the drilling was that, you know, initially we were looking for substantiation of the resource, the historic resource, but we also wanted to prove that, you know, there's some vertical structures here that are mineralized. And so in black here's this new zone that we've discovered. It's a vertical structure. It's got 10.5 meters over 2.3 grams. And then another intersection, 11.6 over 2 grams. And those follow up on that one that I think the next slide shows it. Well, this is a close-up of that. I'm looking for the third hole. I guess it's on this slide, yeah. So here it is. If you're looking from the side, surface is up here. The purple is the intrusion. There's the flat vein, the number 1 vein. And here's these new intersections. And there's that old one that, I was saying before. We thought it was part of a flat vein, 14 grams over 3 meters. But now we've interpreted, and it looks like it's a vertical vein. So when we set out this year, we had 2 goals. One is to drill this number 1 vein and start to substantiate the resource in that. And the second is to try to drill some vertical structures, because most of the drilling to date has been vertical. And if you're aiming for a vertical structure, I'll go back to this slide at the start, and it'll show you these structures again. These are vertical structures. They are likely mineralized. The problem is most of the drilling is vertical or subvertical. And for instance, this one, the main structure, the Catherine Fault, doesn't have a single drill hole going through it. That's the main conduit for the fluids for the whole system. And we don't have one hole that's gone through it. So, we said, okay, let's try drilling some angled holes so we hit some of these things. And so far, all we've drilled is this small area down here. We haven't drilled up here. We haven't drilled here. We had to stop for COVID. So we've started, we're going to start the drills up again mid-June this month. So in another week or so, it's our target date. And we're going to start drilling this target next. Because, there was a historic resource. There's some really good numbers there. I think I've got a close-up slide. Yeah, this is it here. This is a close-up slide of that. So this is where we're going to next. And you can see the numbers. These are good numbers from drilling. 12 meters of 6.3 grams, 11 meters of 3 grams. This is that 0.6 over 147 grams. This whole thing was running. And mainly all the drilling is just up in this corner. Here's the main structure right here. The casing went down through the structure, and then we got the hole. So we don't have a hole through this. And there's another structure coming this way, perpendicular, that again hasn't been drilled. So we think this whole intrusion and this whole area is ripe for big tonnages here. You can see some of these are showings that again haven't been drilled. 4 grams, 43 grams, 35 grams. They're all scattered through the whole area here. So there's a lot of potential here. So this is our next foray when it comes to drilling, and then we'll have phase 2 to follow up on when we finish this phase 1 drilling. And with phase 2, we might go, for instance, I'll go back to that original slide. We might in phase 2 drill this other intrusion here. But for instance, between these two, there's no drill holes, not a single one. There's no drill holes in this gabbro. There's no drill holes on the Catherine Fault. All of these are really beautiful targets. And same thing here between the Allied and the Planet Cyanite. Cisco didn't drill them. They just drilled the intrusions. And these intrusions, we don't know if they hook up. They could hook. It could be one, all the way along here. So this property needs a lot more drilling. So anyway, we're going to finish off with phase 1, and then we're going to go to phase 2, and we'll pick and choose where we're going to drill based on the results of phase 1. And like I say, I would expect that we're going to have a mix here of high-grade intersections that are going to bolster these historic resources. And the second thing is these really long intersections of low grade looking for open pit, because even these holes that are here, like this one here, 147 meters, that's shallow. There's not, most of the drilling is all shallow on the property. And the nice thing is, I'll just show you one more thing. I'll go back to the 3D here, just to show you this. If you look at where the zone is here, this is just the number 1 vein. There are other veins here that need to be followed up. This is one of our holes from this year, and we've got high grade sitting right up here that lines up with high grade here and a vein here. So we've got other veins, and all our holes, you can see they all stop after this vein. Well, what's down here? I mean, we already know that we've got veining down here. I'll just turn off this intrusion so we can see right there. You know, here's that vertical vein that we've discovered, subvertical, nice and steep. So we have these flat guys, but there could be more of these. I would expect more of these vertical veins through here. But I also would expect some veins extending out this way. So you can kind of see, here's one down here. It's 60 grams. You know, you've got another one, there's 90 something grams down in this area. So you've got these veins, yeah, down over here. 19.9 grams here, but it's a wide intersection, 4 meters. So you've got outside of the main vein here, there are other veins here to follow up. And like I say, this has just been shallowly drilled, so you can picture an open pit here quite easily. You're talking a kilometer overall, you know, by a kilometer kind of thing. Those are the kind of dimensions we're targeting. So it's going to be fun times when we get back to drilling. I'll go back to the slideshow here, and I'll hand it over to Brian. Brian, you want to talk to this phase 1, phase 2?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks a lot, Mike. That's awesome. It's always great when you do this, and just gain every time I get a whole new appreciation for how robust and broad and diverse this mineralizing system is. It's great. Thank you. So kind of to recap where we're going on in terms of the exploration. Earlier in February, we commenced our phase 1 drill program on the property. It's a $1.1 million program. The idea was to drill 3,000 meters. Fortunately, due to COVID concerns, we had to shut things down after 13 holes. So we managed to drill 2,200 meters, and then we had took us a while to get the assays, you know, get the results. A lot of coarse gold, which is great, but unfortunately, with coarse gold and core comes analytical problems. We ended up having to do a fair bit of metallics screen assays, and that took a fair bit of time, but we were rewarded in the end. If I remember right, about we ran 51 samples, and for the samples that previously ran 7 grams or better, the metallics increased grade by 19%. This is significant, and we fully expect it to intersect a lot more coarse gold going forward. So we expect drilling to fire up this weekend. We're planning to resume phase 1, drill up to hopefully around 2,000 meters and 10 holes. We also announced yesterday $350,000 IP program, or integrated geophysics program that has commenced on the property. We've got Diaz. We're doing 3D IP, magnetics, and gravity. And this is going to give us incredible insights into the depth, the geometry and the structure and the controls on the property. And this is what's going to be used primarily, you know, in addition to the phase 1 drill results for targeting our phase 2 drill program, which will kick off in late August. We're also going to do some more mechanical stripping and trenching. We've got a number of showings, as Mike showed, that need further work, and we're fully permitted to do that. So that's going to kick off in mid-July. Once we get all our geophysical data, we're very fortunate to have Gold Spot Discoveries on board, and they're going to process all our geophysical data and perform inversions and their AI routines and algorithms, and they're going to integrate that with our 3D model, and this will provide basis for phase 2 drilling. So a lot of exciting things ahead. This is a process, and yeah, so I'm really excited to get this thing going again. And phase 2, as I mentioned, we're hoping to drill about 4,000 meters and 15 holes or more. going forward. And I'm really hopeful that if things keep rolling good, that we're just going to keep drilling. So next slide, please, Mike. So in addition to the Miller property, just briefly mention Northstar's other two properties. The Bryce property, it's situated 50 kilometers south of Kirkland Lake. It's 100% owned, 260 claims, just over 5,000 hectares. And the property's got two styles of mineralization. Northstar's put about $4 million into it since 2007, I believe, and drilled about 22,500 meters of drilling. So we've got we've hit this property pretty hard. It's 100% owned, and we've identified two very compelling exploration targets and styles of mineralization. Next slide, please, Mike. Yeah, great. So we've got the a porphyry style intrusive hosted gold type system, the Sunday Creek porphyry, and some of the historic results. You can see that we've got 0.86 grams over 80 meters. That includes 2 grams over 25.5 meters. This is very significant, and these zones remain open along strike and at depth. We also have the Pike Lake, which is a gold enriched, precious metal enriched VMS type target. And past drilling there, we got 2.36 grams, just over 3 grams silver, and under 2% zinc over just under 16 meters. So again, very compelling and significant drill results. I should mention too, this property is situated close to, I believe it's Orion Ore Finders McKnight project, and also the recently acquired Juby property that Caldas is in the news. So this area is heating up. That was a $10 million deal. This area is heating up, and we're the property right now. We're looking at putting together a 43-101 and consolidating it and taking a closer look at it. But this project is something that we're going to we want to take a real close look at it, and we've maybe entertained some opportunities to either farm it out or spin it out. Go to the next slide, please, Mike. Our last property is the Milestone. It's a copper, nickel, cobalt property. It's situated in the Tomogamy Lake area, further to the south. It's the old. It's an old Teck property. It's got it overlies the same stratigraphy and geology that where Teck's mine was, the mine that made Teck. It's got very high. So we've got a historic resource on it. On our property, about 0.47, some of the drill highlights, 0.47 copper, 0.16 nickel over 8 meters. Shallowly drilled, 100% owned, and this is something that we definitely we need to get a 43-101 around it as well, and we're looking at farm out possibilities for this project as well. So I think on that basis, the next slide, please. So to summarize things, and I'll let Mike, after I do this, if he has anything else to add to this, but I hope that, you know, through this presentation, everyone's come to realize that, you know, Northstar is a pretty special company. It's got very significant assets in the northeastern Ontario, Abitibi and Kirkland Lake region. We've got the Miller is a very exciting property. I loved it the first time I saw it. It's got a number of very important similarities with Macassa and the Kirkland camp and the Sigma Lamac, and this is very early days for us. And there's you know, we've got what little work that's been done so far has got very positive results, and there's excellent potential to find a much larger gold deposit on the property. The share structure of the company is tight. We're newly listed on the CSE. Our ticker is NSG. We've got excellent news flow going forward. When we got out of the gate, we've been working hard to keep the story alive and moving it forward. And there's a lot more good news that's going to be coming soon with drilling and geophysics and everything that we talked about previously. And yeah, so it's and we've got a solid group of mining professionals, exploration specialists, and yeah, so we think Northstar's makes a very, very attractive entry-level investment opportunity in the gold exploration sector. So on that, Mike, if you've got anything else to add to that,
Actually,
feel
can I
free.
just boot into here for 1 sec? We have Mike, if you have something to say, but there's some questions that people have been posting. We'd like to get to those in a second. Or alternatively, if you just want to unmute yourself and ask, as long as you're not jumping on each other, I think that would be work great. I just want to say thanks very much for signing up and listening in here. I think we got a real good advantage over the people that didn't, because that was the intention, is to try to explain the property from Geo's perspective, and you know, we couldn't have two better guys, as well as George Pollock. He's on the property there. We couldn't have better guys that are exploring that property. I'm with Conduit IR. I think most of you probably know that. We're going to have a replay. We're going to edit up a replay and get that out, you know, to people that weren't fortunate enough to see it. But if you're not already signed up, please do so. Send me an email, dwood@conduitir.com. Yeah, you know, text me, call me anytime. And if you have really in-depth questions, you know, I'll flip it over to Brian and that. But we're really, really pleased to have Northstar as a client, and we're really excited about moving forward. And that's about it. So if you got anything left to say, Mike, go ahead. And then I'll just read off a few of these questions, or anybody can jump in there by unmuting themselves.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just, you know, the property speaks for itself. Like the thing that gets me is that it's, you know, it's high grade. Like, you know, I've looked at all the properties around Kirkland Lake, and there's nothing comparable to Kirkland Lake itself, but this is the next closest thing. Like, you know, all the other ones are, you know, sort of 5 to 8 grams type thing. You know, this is more like a 10 to 15 gram thing, which is, you know, it's more akin to the historical grade at Kirkland Lake, not including the new South Zone, but the rest of it was all half ounce, right? So this is similar kind of thing. And, you know, the Barry Hollinger mine, same thing. It was a mine. It's off our property to the northwest. I didn't mention it, but I think it's in one of these slides. You know, the production there was 11.2 grams. So that's kind of what you'd expect from this property. That's what I'd expect anyways, you know, when you actually get mining. So, you know, like I say, there's not many properties anywhere that you can get that kind of grade in. Okay?
What depths are you talking about? How deep are these 10, 11 grams that you're talking about?
Well, the historical resource is basically what you see in red here. And like I say, we you know, we can only use it as a guide, but it, you know, we have to twin holes and everything else. But that was 11.5 grams, eh? And that comes right from surface. So this is shallow. So from surface down to, I don't know what the deepest there was, about 120 meters. I don't even think it was that deep. There are intersections 150 meters down that are really high grade, where the allied cyanide is that Oban drilled. But basically this number 1 vein is all shallow, you know, so anyway, yeah, so good grades. And, you know, I would expect, like I say, there shouldn't just be this 1 vein sitting out here in the volcanics. We already know there's more intersections we've got around, it's, you know, around this intrusion. So there's going to be, you know, stacked veins. It's not just going to be the size of this intrusion. But what I like is, you know, the comparison to, you know, what Eldorado's mining, because these are the same size, these intrusions, and you can get a lot of ounces out of those things if you can find vertical veins. You can get them with flat veins too, like, you know, but it's just easier to mine if you got vertical veins, steep veins.
Awesome. So I get to read one that came in via chat here, and this is from one of sort of the posters on the CEO.ca. If you haven't checked that out, it's a real great portal for information. But anyway, the question was for Brian, if you can unmute Brian, but he's just asking how many meters are planned, and are we going to base the geophysics, the drilling off the geophysics with the gold spot data, and if so, how long do you expect to get that data back? And that's the question. So.
It's, the remainder of this phase, I guess phase 1B program, we're looking at about 1,900 meters, and that's going to kick off right away. We don't need and the geophysics is ongoing. So we've got enough targets right now that we don't need the detailed geophysics to guide us for our next 10 or so holes. So, but the phase 2, once like as I mentioned before, once we finish the geophysics and gold spot, we'll have the access to the data for a good month or so, and work their magic on it, and then the results from our entire phase 1 and phase 1B drilling. By that time, we'll have everything in hand, and we'll have refined our models. We're real-time modeling our deposit in 3D, our systems. So this will all be integrated together, and then Gold Spot will work with that. And phase 2 drilling will be chasing primarily new targets defined by the geophysics. So we'll probably be going a little deeper, but not necessarily. I think there's a lot of very obvious shallow targets, particularly around the intrusions that we haven't drilled. We really haven't drilled the west side of the Allied Sinai yet. So there's still no shortage of shallow targets, but this will be, this is very important. It's going to give us a very solid 3D, as I mentioned earlier, and understanding.
Oh, sorry.
Property.
Just another question from the crowd here, and I think I might just answer. He's asking, how tight is the share offering? So by that, I think you mean how, the share float. And right now, we're very, very fortunate. There's a very tight capital structure. There's just 34.99 million shares. So 35 million shares approximately issued outstanding. We did the IPO without a warrant. There were very few founder shares in the deal, actually none. All the shares were paid for or vended in at third-party valuations. So it's Mike does the comparison to the El Dorado, which is great. They got taken over, but they did so with 600 million shares out. So part of our story is we think we can, if we do that, we're in a better market right now, and the property's somewhat advanced. So we think if we can do it, Mike, get to that comparable, that we should have a lot less than 600 million shares. That I think less than 100 is the hope if everything goes well in a market like this. So that's that answered. And one more here for Brian. Are you considering an upgrade from the CSE to the TXXV, as many U.S. investors are presently hit with an extra commission? So
well, you can answer that too, Derek. But no, I'm very pleased with the CSE. They've been really good for us, and we have no plans to switch to the TSX Venture. In fact, we are looking right now at broadening our exposure to for American investors and getting on the OTC. So we're exploring that. But the CSE's been fine for us. I don't know, Derek, do you have anything to add to that?
CSE is, it's fantastic. Nothing wrong with venture either. But the CSE provides a lot of support to their issuers. They make a lot of introductions. The CSE is growing a lot quicker because of the pot trade they had than I think they thought they would. And now that they're starting to get more and more mining issuers. Couldn't say enough good things about the Canadian Stock Exchange. Great guys over there. And I think, so now what we can do is, because we're listed here, we can get this OTC board listing. It's it's not like the OTC over the counter like it used to be on the pink sheets. It'll be on the get them mixed up, but one of the boards there, QB or so we have a lawyer on that now. So I'm not sure how long the process will take, but it'll be one of the ways to make it a little more accessible. There's also a number of brokers here focused on mining that are licensed in the United States. So if anybody needs one, please do get in touch with me. But yeah, that's about it on there. I just want to say too, we are planning on doing a little tour of the property this coming summer. We don't have the dates yet, but that's going to be planned for, we think sometime in July. COVID, transportation and such, drilling, dependent. But if anybody wants to get in touch on the Northstar website or call me or my website or call Brian, if you can get to Kirkland Lake area this summer, we'd love to meet you up there. The seeing is believing on that property. So that's about it. I've got to go, but I think I can leave without ending the call, or we can end the call. How are you guys doing, Brian and Mike?
May I just ask a question about your next financing? When do you plan to do it, and how much you expect to look for?
Well, right now we're good for the summer, and we're driving to get the results, to get the stock up. We will go back to market towards the end of the year. But right now we don't have any we're fine with what we're doing, and yeah, we'll see. I get inquiries quite regular from groups wondering if they would, if we're looking for more money, or if we'd like to do a financing. But at this juncture right now, we're focused. Like I said, we have means to do what we're doing. We won't turn away great opportunities, great offerings, but we're very cognizant about our share structure, and we want to do this right, and we want all our future financings all to be at a much better price. We don't want to go one direction on this. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It's awesome.
Hey George, where are you? That's a nice lake out behind you there.
That's Lake Zurich. I'm in Switzerland.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
Beautiful there. Yeah. Or here, actually.
I should mention too, and Derek, you did too, thanks, is like none of this would be happening if it wasn't for George Pollock. He's our VP Exploration. He's been just the main driver behind this whole thing, him and his father, John, putting together Northstar and the property portfolio that the company has. George has been working very, very hard on the phase 1 program on Miller, and he's busy right now getting our next phase of drilling going and dealing with the geophysics and everything. So he's a busy guy, and like as I mentioned, none of this would be happening without him. So definitely need to acknowledge that.
Great. Let me see how many people are still on the call here. There's still 28 people here. So let me see how I'm doing for questions. Just jump in if anybody has a question, and maybe we'll just wrap this up in a little bit, and then we'll send around everybody a replay once we tighten up the recording a little bit. And we really appreciate everybody coming on the call. There's a lot of people trying to do webinars these days, because the best part of this business for me, which is getting out and meeting people and drinking beer, we can't do right now. So everybody's rushing to these webinars. We decided to do this one ourselves so that we could spend more time, so that everybody on the call could really understand the potential. But we'll do little ones as well, where we partner with other partners, and please sign up, and we'll get you invited to those as well. And call, email anybody anytime. And thanks very much. And is it all right, Brian and Mike, if we just end the call, or?
Yeah, I'm fine. If there's nobody wants to jump in with any questions, then yeah, maybe I'm fine with that. Mike?
Okay.
Cheers.
I'm not sure how to. Okay, ciao, everybody. Thanks.
All right, thanks
Mike.
for listening, everyone.
All right.
NSG.